Keith Ellison was on MSNBC, and he was discussing the DNC chair race with Ann Reid, and she kept asking him these bizarre questions, and Ellison gave her a much-needed reality check. Take a look.
Because one of the arguments, Vox has a great article about it, there are a lot of people who are making the argument that one reason to choose you is that Bernie Sanders supporters would feel that they had gotten something in the bargain, that they'd gotten somebody who was a Sanders supporter early, then did support Hillary Clinton, but at least that you'd represent that point of view.
Sure.
Is that an important thing to do, or what do you make of the argument by a lot of Clinton supporters who say, wait, Bernie Sanders supporters aren't Democrats, we need to take care of Democrats first?
They have to find an identity, and they've got to find somebody to rally behind, and I think Costa's right. Is it Bernie Sanders, or is it a new face that we haven't yet seen?
And I don't think it can be Bernie Sanders because, as we all know, he's not a Democrat.
He's not a Democrat.
Well, Bernie supporters are Democrats. I'm a Democrat. But I supported both because I believe we got to have inclusion. Can we send anybody away? We need every single person, Democrat, potential Democrat, independent, Green Party member, we need them all, because you know what? We live in the era of Donald Trump, and he is already moving quick to install the foreclosure king at Treasury, the anti-public education person at Education, the climate denier at EPA. There is no one we have to waste. And so my message is one of unity. All my fellow candidates in this race are friends. I love them and I honor their service. But I must say that no matter who wins, and I really believe I should, we are all going to have to work together because there is a greater issue here, and this is the welfare of the American people.
Let's talk about another fundamental issue that I hear more than anything else probably in my Twitter feed, that people want to see the Democrats fight. They don't want to see them say, we'll work with Donald Trump if ... Should Democrats work with Trump or fight Trump at every turn?
Fight Trump at every turn. If there was an instant, even a nanosecond in which we thought we might want to work with him, he's proven that that's a bad idea by his appointments. He's already shown what he wants to do. He's gotten more big-time Wall Streeters in there than anybody thought he would. He's getting people with, nefarious ties that he's associating with. I mean, his cabinet, for example, has, in the midst of a rental housing crisis, he picked somebody who knows nothing about housing. Ben Carson.
Ben Carson, neurosurgeon.
So we're at a point where he has made very clear we have no common ground. It's our job to fight Trumpism, but not only just to verbally talk bad about it. We've got to go to the neighborhoods, to the VFW halls, the union halls, grocery stores, and hair shops, and talk to people in Detroit and Flint, but also in Kentucky. Both. We got to talk to both and explain to people not only the damage that he's doing to them, taking away their health care, won't even work on fixing the water crisis, but actually what we would do, which is to help make government work for them.
So I absolutely loved his answer there. He said, we need every single person, Democrat, potential Democrat, independent, Green Party member, because if you want to be a successful political party, then you need to bring people into the party, not exclude them. And that's what Ann Reid has argued that we should do. And when he said that we need to bring in independents and even Greens, I think her head nearly exploded there, because that is something that she does not want to hear, because Ann Reid is a partisan hack, and she could not be any more hackier if she tried. And I think I just made up a word, but it's fitting for Ann Reid. Now, there's one thing in there that I do take issue with. He said Bernie Sanders supporters are Democrats, and he's right by and large. But this isn't necessarily a correct generalization anymore, because after we found out that the primary was in fact rigged against Bernie Sanders, there was Dem exit, there was Dump Dems Day, and many people, myself included, left the party, and we are now independents or Green Party members. Now, whether or not I come back to the party will hinge on who's elected as the DNC chair. So if it is the case that the DNC opts for someone like Tom Perez, who's a corrupt centrist Democrat, then I will not return to the party. But if Keith Ellison becomes the DNC chair, then I will be more inclined to return maybe in a few years if I choose to vote for someone in the Democratic primaries in 2019 and 2020. Now, basically everything that he talks about here is consistent with his message of party unity. He states Trump is already moving quick to install the foreclosure king as Treasury, the anti-public education person at Education, the climate denier at the EPA, and there's no one to waste, so my message is unity. And that is something that's great. I mean, not only is his messaging on point because he's criticizing these people and calling them out for what they are, but you can't not have Democratic Party unity at a time like this. Now, I'm a hypocrite because I read over David Brock's apology to Bernie Sanders supporters and I said, no, I do not accept your apology and I don't want to unify with you. But I don't want to unify with liberal elites like David Brock more specifically. He breaks bread with the richest of the rich on the left. And I think that if you really want to be effective, then I think unity is important, but at the grassroots level. So I'm in favor of bringing together Hillary Clinton supporters, Bernie Sanders supporters, Jill Stein supporters, and helping all of us to defeat Donald Trump at the grassroots level, not at the top, but at the bottom. So I think unity is important, and I think that Keith Ellison is on point here. So I'm glad that he gave Ann Reid this reality check because it's something she needed to hear. After saying that Bernie Sanders can't possibly be the new leader of the Democratic Party because he's not a Democrat, that's just, I think it's something that's odd to say because the party itself, it's always been a Big Tent party. They still claim to be a Big Tent party, yet they love excluding independents. And they said that they didn't want independents meddling in the affairs of the Democratic Party. Well, that's not how you bring people in. That's how you lose. And certainly they lost because Hillary Clinton did not pick off enough independents to win against Trump. Now, there was another weird question in here from Ann Reid that I just had to address. She said, should Democrats work with Trump or oppose him at every turn? Yes, Ann Reid, they should work with Trump. After 8 years of obstructionism, they should turn around and support the agenda of Republicans. Ellison's answer was on point. He states, we fight Trump at every turn. He's made it very clear that we have no common ground. And that right there is why I think he should be the DNC chair. I don't know what else Donald Trump can do to communicate to liberals and progressives that he's not with us, he wants nothing to do with us. So the fact that we would even contemplate waiting around to see what he's going to do is absurd to me. No, we oppose Donald Trump at every single turn. If there's any common ground, which there's not, then we can work with him. But he's showing that there's absolutely nothing that he could put forward that's going to be good for us. So for example, at first, he pledged to fix our broken infrastructure. But what that really was a neoliberal policy that would benefit a couple of private corporations. So it's not really like Bernie Sanders' infrastructure spending policy that he proposed when he was running that would put Americans to work. This would benefit private companies. So it's corruption. So there's no common ground between us and Donald Trump. So Ann Reid needs to understand that working with Donald Trump should be completely off the table. Now, there was also a tidbit in there that I found fascinating. So Keith Ellison said, we've also got to not just talk bad about Donald Trump, but we've got to go to the neighborhoods and mobilize the people. And I think what he wanted to do there was say, we can't just talk bad about Trump. Elizabeth Warren... That's probably what he was, kind of getting at, because that's what Elizabeth Warren does. She talks the talk, but at the end of the day, she doesn't necessarily walk the walk. So I think that he was kind of implicitly signaling to Elizabeth Warren, maybe, that she needs to stop talking and she needs to actually put those words into action. And finally, he discusses his plan as DNC chair to provide financial assistance to local Democratic Party organizations in order to mobilize voters in their area. This is a strategy that I think is just common sense, and the fact that the DNC doesn't already have something like this, it just shows the level of incompetence under Debbie Wasserman Schultz in her tenure, and it makes it very clear as to why Democrats kept losing under Debbie Wasserman Schultz. It's a joke. Now, there were a couple of other moments in there that I thought were important that weren't included in that clip. So he states, we can't ignore people who we know will vote for us or know won't vote for us. This is incredibly important. It's crucial. It's part of the reason why Hillary Clinton lost, because she thought that she had the youth vote on lock. She thought that she had the Bernie vote on lock. She thought that she had the African American vote on lock. But during the end of her campaign, she realized that a lot of Floridians that were African American, they weren't as enthusiastic to come out and support her as she once thought. She realized millennials were flocking to third-party candidates. She realized that Bernie Sanders supporters weren't like her supporters in 2008, and that after the primary was rigged, they weren't willing to play nice and fall in line. So this is something that the Democratic Party has been missing. And I feel as though Keith Ellison is going into this eyes wide open. He knows what to expect. He knows what they're lacking. So after this interview, if Keith Ellison does not become the DNC chair, I think it's safe to say that the Democratic Party will be out of power for a very long time, and we may very well get Trump for not just 4 years, but 8 years. And I know that that's really too early to say, but Keith Ellison is the only ray of hope that they have. So if he's not able to reform the Democratic Party at the grassroots level, the party's going to suffer badly. And I'm not being hyperbolic. I really believe that.
Support this podcast by joining the independent progressive media revolution today at humanistreport.com.